In a small American town nestled between rolling hills and wide rivers, there lived two children, Emma and Jacob. The town was so small that everyone knew each other, and the children grew up together, learning about life and the world around them. Emma and Jacob had been friends since childhood, but little did they know that their love was destined from the first days they met. Emma and Jacob met on their first day of kindergarten. Emma was a little girl with bright golden curls, always cheerful and inquisitive. Jacob was calmer, with serious eyes and a wide smile. They met on the playground when they both tried to get down the slide at the same time. At first they just laughed and helped each other, but their eyes often crossed at other games. And so their friendship began. In kindergarten, they always sat together at lunchtime, drawing pictures together and telling each other about their little adventures. They loved to play hide and seek, and when one of them lost, the other always supported him and didn't let him be sad. When they started elementary school, their relationship became even stronger. Not only did they sit in the same classes, but they often walked together in the schoolyard after school. Their friendship had long been noticeable to other students, but Emma and Jacob still did not realize that there was more to them than just childhood affection. One of the most memorable moments of their school years happened in the 5th grade. Emma, who had always been very active, decided to organize a performance at the school festival. She prepared a dance and Jacob, although not as flexible, agreed to be her partner. They practiced together after school, and even though Jacob struggled to keep the rhythm, Emma was always there to encourage him. The performance at the holiday party was a great success, and everyone in the class admired their duet. It was the moment they realized how well they complemented each other. In high school, their friendship grew into something more. They started sharing not only little secrets, but also more serious experiences. Jacob was always the one who supported Emma in difficult moments. She, in turn, helped him with his homework when he had difficulties with his studies. But, despite this, there was still no clear definition between them of how they felt about each other. As Emma and Jacob became teenagers, their feelings began to change. Jacob became more withdrawn, while Emma, on the other hand, became more outgoing and popular at school. This led to a certain distance between them. Emma began to spend more time with other friends, and Jacob often sat alone, immersed in books and his thoughts. But even when they weren't spending time together, they still felt that they had room in their hearts only for each other. One day, during spring break, Emma was at a party where she was asked why she didn't go out with guys. She answered without hesitation, "I'm waiting for Jacob." Her words became the impetus for a big change. It was their last year of high school. Jacob and Emma had not seen each other for several months, due to different responsibilities and classes. Emma felt like she was missing something. She often remembered the moments when they were together and realized that it was more than just friendship. She always knew that Jacob was the one she loved. On one of the holiday evenings, when the town celebrated Independence Day, they met again. Jacob, standing next to Emma on the steps of the community center, finally decided to confess his feelings. He turned to her and, looking into her eyes, quietly said, "I can't imagine my life without you, Emma. I love you." Emma was surprised, but she responded immediately, "I love you too, Jacob." This moment was a turning point for both of them. All these years, they had been hiding their feelings so much that they could not see how much they had changed for each other. Now, when they finally admitted that they loved each other, everything fell into place. After graduating from high school, Jacob and Emma went to university together in another city, but their relationship remained just as strong. They supported each other in difficult moments, helped each other with their studies, and planned their future together. Eventually, Jacob proposed to Emma, and she accepted because she felt it was the only right choice in her life. They were married at the same venue where they had first met, and then embarked on a journey together to start a new chapter in their lives. Every time they looked at each other, they knew that their love was not just an accident. They had gone through childhood, adolescence, and adulthood together, and now they had everything they needed to live happily ever after. They proved to themselves that true love begins with friendship and blossoms throughout life. And so, their eyes always had the same sparkle in them that they felt as children when they were laughing together on the hill. After their honeymoon, Jacob and Emma returned to their hometown, where they began to set up their life together. They decided to rent a small apartment, where every corner was filled with memories of their childhood, their dreams and hopes. Jacob started working for a local information technology company, and Emma decided to open her own handicraft store, where she would sell her drawings, embroidery, and other works of art. The first years of their life together were filled with many challenges and joys. Together, they learned to negotiate the little things, plan a budget, and organize their household. Like all couples, they had their small quarrels, but each time they found a compromise, realizing that the most important thing was to support each other. And although sometimes it seemed that life's difficulties were hard, they always supported each other. They knew that if they overcame all problems together, nothing could break their union. A few years later, Jacob received an offer from another city, where he was offered an interesting job with good prospects. It was a difficult decision. On the one hand, he realized that this could be a big step forward in his career, but on the other hand, he couldn't imagine life without Emma and their small, cozy town. He hesitated for a long time because he didn't want their lives to change. But Emma, always understanding his aspirations, supported his decision. She realized that this was a chance for him, and although it would be hard for her to leave her home, she was ready to do anything for their future together. They set off to the new city together, knowing that they were changing their lives, but at the same time staying together. Emmy and she agreed, because she felt it was the only right choice in her life. They were married at the same venue where they had first met, and then embarked on a journey together to start a new chapter in their lives. Every time they looked at each other, they knew that their love was not just an accident. They had gone through childhood, adolescence, and adulthood together, and now they had everything they needed to live happily ever after. They proved to themselves that true love begins with friendship and blossoms throughout life. And now, they always had the same sparkle in their eyes that they felt as children when they laughed together on the hill. After the wedding trip, Jacob and Emma returned to their hometown, where they began to arrange their life together. They decided to rent a small apartment, where every corner was filled with memories of their childhood, their dreams and hopes. Jacob began working for a local information technology company, and Emma decided to open her own handicraft shop, where she sold her drawings, embroidery, and other works of art. The first years of their life together were full of various difficulties and joys. Together they learned to negotiate trifles, plan a budget, organize the household. Like all couples, they had their small quarrels, but each time after them they found a compromise, realizing that the most important thing is to support each other. And although sometimes it seemed that life's difficulties were difficult, they always supported each other. They knew that if they overcome all the problems together, nothing could break their alliance. A few years later, Jacob received an offer from another city, where he was offered an interesting job with good prospects. It was a difficult decision. On the one hand, he understood that this could be a big step forward in his career, and on the other hand, he could not imagine life without Emma and their small cozy town. He hesitated for a long time, because he did not want their lives to change. But Emma, always understanding his aspiration, supported his decision. She understood that this was a chance for him, and although it would be difficult for her to leave her native place, she was ready to do anything for the sake of their common future. They went to a new city together, knowing that they were changing their lives, but at the same time they stayed together. Emmy and she agreed, because she felt that it was the only right choice in her life. They got married on the same venue where they once met, and then went on a journey together to start a new chapter in their lives. Every time they looked at each other, they knew that their love was not just an accident. They went through childhood, adolescence, and youth together, and now had everything they needed to live happily ever after. They proved to themselves that true love begins with friendship and flourishes throughout life. And so, in their eyes there was always the same shine that they felt as children, when they laughed together on the hill. After the wedding trip, Jacob and Emma returned to their hometown, where they began to arrange their life together. They decided to rent a small apartment, where every corner was filled with memories of their childhood, their dreams and hopes. Jacob began working for a local information technology company, and Emma decided to open her own handicraft shop, where she sold her drawings, embroidery, and other works of art. The first years of their life together were full of various difficulties and joys. Together they learned to negotiate trifles, plan a budget, organize the household. Like all couples, they had their small quarrels, but each time after them they found a compromise, realizing that the most important thing is to support each other. And although sometimes it seemed that life's difficulties were difficult, they always supported each other. They knew that if they overcome all the problems together, nothing could break their alliance. A few years later, Jacob received an offer from another city, where he was offered an interesting job with good prospects. It was a difficult decision. On the one hand, he understood that this could be a big step forward in his career, and on the other hand, he could not imagine life without Emma and their small cozy town. He hesitated for a long time, because he did not want their lives to change. But Emma, always understanding his aspiration, supported his decision. She understood that this was a chance for him, and although it would be difficult for her to leave her native place, she was ready to do anything for the sake of their common future. They went to a new city together, knowing that they were changing their lives, but at the same time they stayed together. The city they moved to was much larger, and adapting to a new life was not so easy. At first, Emma felt a little lost among strangers and without the usual places where she often walked with Jacob as a child. But gradually, thanks to her husband's support, she found new hobbies. She began to participate in local art exhibitions and meet other artists. She felt that she liked to create in a new environment, although she missed the simple moments they had before in their small town. Jacob, in turn, quickly adapted in the new place. His career went up, and he received an offer to work in senior positions at the company. But despite this, he always found time for his wife. Every night they sat at the table, had dinner and discussed their days, shared experiences and dreams. A few years after moving to a new city, Emma and Jacob made one of the biggest decisions of their lives. They decided to have a child. Emma was slightly excited, because she didn't know how their life would change after the baby was born. She loved her career, but also wanted to be a mother. Jacob was also excited, because it was a new stage that they had long dreamed of, but, in fact, did not know what to expect. 9 months later, their lives really changed when a little boy named Oliver was born. It was a real miracle, a small creature that they cherished together and raised with love and care. Days and nights turned into a series of sleepless but happy moments. Jacob and Emma felt that their love became even deeper and stronger as they looked at their little family. Oliver not only became their pride, but also united them even more. She and Jacob spent time together in parks, rode Oliver on bicycles, taught him to draw. They were not only partners in love, but also partners in upbringing. Time passed, but their love remained as strong as in the days when they were still teenagers. Every year they celebrated their anniversary, remembering all those moments that led them to this happy life. They experienced all the joys and difficulties together, and each new stage of their lives added more depth to their feelings. And even as they were getting older, they knew that their love had gone through all trials and remained unwavering. They understood that true love does not depend on time, it is strengthened and grows together with the people who feel it. Jacob and Emma have become an example for everyone around that true love is not only romance and passion, but also friendship, support and mutual understanding. And they stayed together, hand in hand, promising each other that no distance and time could destroy their connection. The life they built together was their greatest victory. As Oliver grew up and became a teenager, Jacob and Emma realized how important it was to help him find his way in life while keeping warm and supportive in the family. They often organized family evenings during which they discussed plans for the future, dreams and experiences. Oliver, although he was already older, always found time for his parents, even if his friendships with his peers became increasingly important. Jacob and Emma tried to be not only parents, but also friends for Oliver. They knew that adolescence was a period of search and self-expression, so they were always open to conversation and help. When Oliver became interested in music, Jacob, who himself loved to play the guitar, invited him to study together. Joint music evenings were not only an opportunity for father and son to share their interests, but also an important part of their relationship. Emma, in turn, always supported Oliver in his creative quest. She organized exhibitions of his drawings, encouraged him to participate in competitions, and often worked with him on projects for the school. They became a real team, and Oliver felt that even though he was growing up, he always had support. One day, when Oliver was already 18 years old, he decided to go to the big city in order to enter the university. This was an important moment in their lives, because it meant that their family would begin a new phase, a stage where their son would live apart from his parents. Jacob and Emma felt sad and excited when Oliver said he wanted to leave their home and start a new life in the city. They knew that it was necessary for his development, but at the same time they could not help but feel that here he is, the moment when their family will become smaller, and it will be a big change. Oliver, however, promised that he would not forget his parents and that he would always keep in touch with them. This moment, although difficult, turned out to be an important milestone for everyone. Jacob and Emma understood that their parenthood was not just a concern, but a strong foundation for their son's independent, confident adult life. They knew that this transition was necessary for Oliver to realize his dreams, and that they would always be with him, regardless of the distance. Over time, when Oliver started a new life at the university, Jacob and Emma also discovered that their lives became new. They spent more time together, and every day brought new opportunities to restore their relationship. They often went to dinner at local restaurants, traveled together, found new hobbies. They were no longer just parents, but again became the spouses they were in the beginning. They rediscovered each other, received new sensations from spending time together. These changes in their lives allowed Jacob and Emma to return the romance to a relationship that seemed to be already familiar. They began to choose new routes for walks, arranged dates like in their youth, and remembered all the best moments they had experienced together. Their love became deeper and richer, because they went through many stages together and now found joy even in the smallest things. A few years later, when Oliver had already graduated from university and started working in a large company, Jacob and Emma realized that their lives did not end with raising children. They began to dream of new things, travel, new projects, opportunities that open up to them now that they have become only for each other again. Their lives took on a new meaning, and even when their son got married and started his own family, Jacob and Emma continued to enjoy their company, feeling that they had achieved the greatest happiness. They were together, supported each other, and built their future. They proved to themselves that true love is not only the first moments of acquaintances or romantic experiences, but also the ability to overcome all stages of life together, change and grow together. And so, as they were sitting on the terrace of their house, watching the sunset, Jacob took Emma's hand and said, "You were my best adventure, Emma. And I know this adventure will never end." Emma smiled, looking into his eyes, and replied, "I am the same, Jacob. You are my everything." And although their lives were full of various events, they knew one thing. The love that began in childhood became the basis of everything they had built together and continued to flourish with each year. Later, when Jacob and Emma began to enjoy living together in the golden years, life once again set them new challenges. Oliver, their son, who had already arranged his life in the big city, unexpectedly found himself in a difficult situation. His company, where he worked, began to experience financial difficulties, and this affected his career prospects. Oliver didn't immediately share this news, but when his parents found out, they offered to help him without hesitation. Jacob, who had a lot of experience in business, and Emma, who was always ready to support during difficult times, decided to help their son. Together they considered the possibilities for Oliver to overcome temporary difficulties, and together they came up with a strategy for his professional growth. This situation was an important moment in their lives. Jacob and Emma once again realized that their support for each other and their son is the most important thing in life. They could not leave Oliver alone with difficulties, because from the very beginning of their marriage they swore to be for each other in any situation. This event rallied the family even more, and Oliver realized that even in the most difficult moments, his parents were and would always be his reliable support. A few years later, after the situation with Oliver was resolved, Jacob and Emma decided that it was time for a new adventure. They always dreamed of visiting Europe, and now that the children were already adults and independent, they decided to make this dream come true. The couple went on a trip to the ancient cities of Europe, visited Paris, Rome, Barcelona, and other places of worship. It was an incredible journey. They enjoyed every moment, every new place, every sunset. For Jacob and Emma, it was not just a vacation, but an opportunity to return to their roots, to feel young, free, and ready for new discoveries again. They strolled through the narrow streets of Paris, tried to eat deliciously in small cafes in Italy, laughed, remembering their first dates and lives when they were younger. In Europe, they not only felt like tourists, but also remembered their dreams, which were once simple. They dreamed of traveling together and seeing the world. This journey was an important milestone in their lives, because it showed that it is never too late to make dreams come true, even when you are already in adulthood. They realized that even after all the trials and difficulties, life can be made full of emotions and new experiences. After they returned home from Europe, Jacob and Emma decided that it was important to pass on their experience and wisdom to the younger generations. They began to organize family gatherings, where they all shared their news together, laughed and discussed common plans. These meetings became a new family tradition, and everyone always gathered for them, Oliver with his wife, and even their children when they appeared. It was an opportunity to reconnect, talk about important things, and create new memories together. Jacob and Emma became an example for their children and grandchildren that could be guided. They showed how important it is to maintain family ties, love and respect each other, even when life changes. Over time, as Jacob and Emma got older, they realized more that the main thing in life is not material achievements or great success, but moments of joy that we get from being with loved ones. They began to appreciate more those simple things that once seemed ordinary. Spending time together, walking in nature, spending evenings with books or behind old photos, these moments had become the most valuable for them. And although they no longer had the same energy as they used to, and could not travel so often or change something in their habits, they still found joy in the little things. Jacob and Emma became living testimonies that life is not only about great events, but also about how you appreciate the moments of every day, how you love and support those around you. One day, when they were sitting on the terrace of their house again, admiring the sunset and just enjoying each other's company, Jacob hugged Emma and said softly, "We went through so much together. And I know we did the right thing. I'm proud of you, Emma. You are the best part of my life." Emma smiled and replied, "And I am you, Jacob. Our life is not just a journey, it is a whole canvas that we paint together. And I wouldn't want to change a single stroke." And so, surrounded by a family, in a measured life full of quiet joys and warm memories, their story continued to be a living testimony of how important it is to love, maintain and stay together, despite all the changes that life brings. Every year that has passed, Jacob and Emma have found new ways to strengthen their relationship and enjoy what they have. No matter how their lives changed, they always found time for each other. Their family grew, and despite the fact that the children became adults, they still often got together to share their joys, experiences, discuss their dreams. Oliver and his wife Nicole always came to family celebrations, and then so did their children, 2 little boys who brought a lot of fun to the house. Jacob and Emma were looking forward to these moments, because they gave them the opportunity to relive the joy of motherhood and fatherhood, now in the role of grandparents. As before, Jacob and Emma supported not only each other, but also their children, giving them their love, wisdom and support in the most important moments of life. They realized that true happiness is not just about achieving your goals or succeeding, but about the ability to create new memories with those you love. They always said that the greatest value in life is the people with whom you share your days. One summer evening, when their grandchildren were running around the garden, Jacob and Emma were sitting in an old wooden courtyard, and their hands were intertwined again, as they did many years ago, when they were just starting their journey together. "You know," Jacob said, "I still can't believe how much things have changed. We've been through so much together, and now here, in this courtyard, we have what we dreamed of creating. All these years, all these moments. I wouldn't want anything different." Emma smiled, her eyes shining with happiness. "You know," she replied, "me too. And you were my strength, my light, my best part. I can't even imagine how I would live without you." It was true happiness, calm and confident that they went through life together, did not lose each other and still remained side by side. Their love became deeper, more mature, but no less strong. They knew that these years together gave them more than any material success. Despite the fact that their children grew up, Jacob and Emma did not feel any sadness or emptiness in their family. Oliver, Nicole, their grandchildren were all part of a large and important picture they created together. Jacob and Emma decided that in old age they want to travel even more, visit new countries, get acquainted with new cultures, but not only for themselves, but also to pass on their experience to their children and grandchildren. They realized that life has no limits, and every new day is another opportunity to do something special. One of their biggest dreams was to organize a big family vacation, where everyone could come, both children, grandchildren, and even older relatives. They imagined it as a great celebration of love and unity, where everyone together would celebrate not only holiday dates, but also every new day. This idea became very important to them, because they realized that the family is something that always remains, what always supports, even when everything else changes. "We will do it," Jacob said, imagining this moment. "We will have a huge holiday. Everything will be as we want. And it will be our way of telling everyone how much we love them." Emma took his hand and replied with a smile. "It will be the best holiday of our lives." Every year, they became more and more like each other, and this was another sign of how much they became a part of each other's lives. Jacob and Emma remained the ones who always found new ways to create happiness, who are not afraid to change and develop, even when life brings new challenges. And so, when they were completely old, they sat in the same yard where it all began. The sun went beyond the higher, and although their hands were no longer as strong as they used to be, their love remained as strong as in the first years together. They looked at each other with a smile, not having to say many words. "You are my best part of life," Jacob said, and there was no doubt in his voice. Emma hugged him and replied softly, "And you are mine. Our life is the best thing we could create together. I'm happy to be with you." And their hearts beat in the same rhythm, because they knew, the love they carried throughout their lives was true happiness. Love, which began in youth, became the basis for happiness, and this path continued throughout life. They ended their journey as two old friends who went through all the waves of life together and achieved the most important thing, mutual harmony and unchanging love. Years passed, but Jacob and Emma always remained one for one, those who can be relied on, those who understand without words and accept without conditions. In their house, which witnessed many events, there was nothing special except simplicity and warmth. They didn't travel so often anymore, but they didn't need big changes. What was important to them was that they had each other, and that was enough to feel joy every day. Jacob began to spend more time in his garden, which they created together. Every step, every plant, every flower were not just plants, they were memories, symbols of their common path. Emma also enjoyed working in the garden. She loved this place, which became her special space for reflection and peace. Sometimes they sat on a bench in the garden, looking at the winding paths leading to their house, and laughing at simple things. They remembered their first meeting as young Emma with her head in the clouds, and Jacob, who was sober and a little serious at the time, watched her enthusiasm. How she made him laugh even in the most difficult moments. and how, over time, they began to complement each other, creating harmony even in the most difficult periods of life. When Oliver and Nicole learned that their parents had become older and needed more attention, they decided to create a new family tradition together. Every year, the family gathered for several days in a large house that they rented in nature, on the shore of the lake. It was a place that became their cozy corner, where the family could relax together, share their experiences, and just enjoy the moments together. And you are mine. Our life is the best thing we could create together. I'm happy to be with you. And their hearts beat in the same rhythm, because they knew the love they carried throughout their lives was true happiness. Love, which began in youth, became the basis for happiness, and this path continued throughout life. They ended their journey as two old friends who went through all the waves of life together and achieved the most important thing: mutual harmony and unchanging love. Years passed, but Jacob and Emma always remained one for one, those who can be relied on, those who understand without words and accept without conditions. In their house, which witnessed many events, there was nothing special except simplicity and warmth. They didn't travel so often anymore, but they didn't need big changes. What was important to them was that they had each other, and that was enough to feel joy every day. Jacob began to spend more time in his garden, which they created together. Every step, every plant, every flower were not just plants, they were memories, symbols of their common path. Emma also enjoyed working in the garden. She loved this place, which became her special space for reflection and peace. Sometimes they sat on the bench in the garden, looking at the winding paths leading to their house, and laughing at simple things. They remembered their first meeting as young Emma with her head in the clouds, and Jacob, who was sober and a little serious at the time, watched her enthusiasm. How she made him laugh even in the most difficult moments. And how, over time, they began to complement each other, creating harmony even in the most difficult periods of life. When Oliver and Nicole learned that their parents had become older and needed more attention, they decided to create a new family tradition together. Every year, the family gathered for several days in a large house that they rented in nature, on the shore of the lake. It was a place that became their cozy corner, where the family could relax together, share their experiences, and just enjoy the moments together. One day, when everyone was gathered together, Jacob raised a glass and said, "For our family, for everything we have created together. And for the fact that we can share these moments even as we get older. Your support and love is all I need." Emma, holding his hand, added softly, "We built it all together, and I'm happy to see our family grow and thrive. Each of you makes our lives richer and more beautiful. It is true happiness to be together with you." Everyone laughed, raising the glasses. It was one of those moments when everyone felt that life is not about wealth or fame, but about moments when you are next to those you love. Time passed inexorably, and although they could no longer do much of what they once loved, travel, walk all day, their life was still full and rich. They continued to get overtime together, remembering past moments, laughing and helping each other. In recent years, Jacob has begun to notice that his powers are gradually leaving him. He needed Emma's help more and more, but this did not prevent them from remaining as close. Their love became even more tender and tender. Emma, although she missed the times when they could walk all day long, was still grateful for every minute spent together. They knew that time could not take away what they had built. Once, when Jacob was already feeling very weak, he looked at Emma and said, "We went through everything together, and I'm happy that my path brought me to you." Emma, leaning towards him, replied softly, "You were and are my everything, Jacob. You gave me the best years of my life, and I will never forget it." And although Jacob was very sick, his eyes lit up with love for the woman he had loved all his life. A few months later, after they shared all their last moments together, Jacob quietly left this world. But even at his last minute, he did not leave his heart, he left his Emmy, because their love would never end. Love, which began in youth, passed through decades, and became eternal. Emma was overwhelmed with grief, but she felt that she would not be left alone. She knew that Jacob left a piece of himself in every memory of them together. They left behind a huge mark in this world, a trace of love, support, and unlimited devotion to each other. Over time, Emma found peace, but she knew that the happiness they had built together lives in her heart and in the hearts of their children, grandchildren, everyone who touched their lives. And although Jacob left, his love remained eternal. And this love had no limits. It lasted in the memories, in those moments of happiness that they experienced together. Therefore, even at the end of the journey, their love continued to exist, living in every day, in every family meeting, in every laugh and every view of the world they had created together. Farewell to Jacob was the hardest moment in Emma's life, but she knew it wasn't the end. She couldn't and didn't want to forget everything they went through together. Their love, their life together remained with her, and although her heart was broken, she felt a deep inner understanding that everything they had achieved together would continue to live in her soul. And this gave her the strength to move on. Oliver, Nicole, and her grandchildren were support for her. They helped her get through the darkest days after the loss, reminding her that the family would always be there. The time that has passed has become a time of recovery for Emma. She began to find new hobbies that helped her feel alive again. She enrolled in painting courses, began to spend more time in the garden, and even began to plan small trips to places that Jacob always dreamed of visiting, but never had time. And although the pain of loss remained, she no longer felt lonely. She realized that her life was going on and that her love for Jacob had not disappeared. Her heart blossomed again, even if it was another love, another part of her life. One day, when Emma was visiting a local gallery for her drawings, she came across an old acquaintance. They hadn't seen each other for many years, and although this man had nothing to do with Jacob, she saw a familiar look in his eyes, a look that had not been forgotten in all these years. It was James, her old friend, with whom she worked together in her youth. James, like her, has been through a great stage in her life, and it seems that it is now that their paths have crossed again. They talked a lot, remembered the old days, laughed and shared experiences. James was not only a friend, but also a good listener, and Emma noticed how communication with him brought her a sense of lightness that had long since disappeared from her life. He understood her, and there was no need to hide his feelings or doubts. This meeting was like a push for her. She realized that although her heart belonged to Jacob, it did not mean that she could not open up to new emotions. She began to appreciate the simple moments more, to enjoy life again, not to dwell on what was, but to enter into new adventures again. After a while, Emma and James began to see each other more. They traveled together, discovered new places, and did not rush to make big steps in their relationship, but felt that it was something special. Emma realized that her heart was open to love again, albeit with a different meaning. Her relationship with James was different from that with Jacob. It was a new love that arose on the basis of mutual support and understanding. They had a lot in common, and every day brought new joyful moments. But Emma realized one important thing: what happened to her and Jacob was unique and unforgettable. And now, she had the opportunity to build new happy memories with James, and this did not diminish the value of her first love. Emma understood that life never stood still. Love changes, but it never disappears. And although her heart remained filled with love for Jacob, now it had room for new emotions. She began to live with a new confidence, knowing that she was capable of loving and being loved, and that it did not contradict what was in her past. And so, a few years later, when life had already changed their habits and perspectives, James and Emma, after a few years together, stood on the threshold of an important decision. Emma looked at his serious look and felt calm in her heart. She didn't know what would happen next, but she was sure of one thing: she was not alone, and her life would continue to move forward, filled with new opportunities and love. Their story was only at the beginning, and although she did not know exactly where it would lead, Emma was ready to give a chance to new feelings and new opportunities, because life is an endless cycle of change. She believed that every day brings new chances and opportunities for happiness. And most importantly, her heart was open to life, and this was the best beginning of a new path. And maybe this path will bring new encounters, new joys, and maybe a new love. But one thing remained unchanged. At every stage of her life she was ready to love and be loved, believe in miracles and enjoy every moment, because true happiness is not a destination, but the path we go through together. And every day can be the beginning of a new, happy chapter in her life. Life goes on, and it continues to be beautiful.